And joining us tonight, right here on the KOIN 6 News set, Oregon Senator Ron Wyden, who's on the Senate Intelligence Committee investigating the Trump camp's possible collusion with Russia. Senator, welcome, first of all.
Thank you, Jeff.
And what is your reaction to this latest news from the Washington Post that Kushner wanted to set up a secret channel to avoid eyes prying into that before the inauguration?
Jeff, I obviously can't get into classified matters, but it's pretty clear that practically every day another shoe is dropping if you listen to the press reports. Now, my understanding, again from press reports, is that the president has hired a lawyer, and it sounds like that lawyer is going to have a pretty big closet full of shoes to start looking into.
Well, something else that broke today, too, is that your committee has requested all documents that date back to before campaigning, June of 2015. Can you say anything about that? What type of documents, what exactly you might be looking for?
Here's what's going on. What we've got to do now is establish our role as Bob Mueller establishes his role. He, of course, is the special counsel. He works primarily on the criminal side. We've got an investigative role to play. In other words, it's our job to tell Oregonians, tell the American people what happened to their democracy. For example, I'm taking the lead on what are called the follow the money issues, which are particularly important since the president's son said in 2008 much of their portfolio came from Russian money. And I asked one of our experts the other day at an open hearing, and he said, does it make sense? Should we follow the money? And he said, yes, Senator, and also follow the trail of the dead bodies.
Well, and that's important because there is an investigation by the Senate Intelligence Committee as well as Mueller and the Department of Justice. So there are two independent ones. Is there one that people should be following more in particular?
No, they're playing a different role. Mm-hmm. We do investigations. They do criminal matters. You're going to start hearing a fancy word called deconfliction, which basically means that both sides are Senate investigators and Bob Mueller's people. The idea is not to trip over each other, but to work together. And look, we have a different role. I have put a public hold on a key Trump appointment, a Treasury appointment, until we get the documents involving follow the money. That's something Bob Mueller wouldn't do.
Well, how confident are you that you will get those documents? Because what we're hearing a lot is people are requesting documents. Those documents aren't forthcoming.
They're going to be. I can tell you we are going to go to the mat in terms of getting these documents, and there is no reason why we can't do an aggressive investigation, which is what our job is. Our job under the law is to do vigorous oversight. It's not a criminal matter, but on these kinds of issues like following the money, I'm also the ranking Democrat on the Finance Committee, that's the Treasury Department. We're going to get these documents and do our work.
Okay, you were a young man just starting in politics when Watergate broke in the mid-70s. Is this reminding you, a lot of folks are drawing parallels between what's happening now and Watergate. What parts of this remind you of the Watergate era right now?
It is really quite different from a historical standpoint. The Watergate investigation, to a great extent, was a closed box. In other words, it was bipartisan. Once in a while, you'd hear a little bit about their work, but it wasn't like today where with social media and the press breaking a story practically every few hours, you need, and that's what an investigative committee does, you need to bring the American people into the debate in a way that doesn't compromise what are called sources and methods, classified information.
Well, and lastly, I want to ask you about James Comey, the fired FBI director. He is expected to testify. Do we know when, and what do you expect from that testimony?
Well, an hour after the president fired Mr. Comey, I said the single most important thing is to get James Comey before the Intelligence Committee in an open hearing to answer questions. And look, the key kinds of issues are going to be, did the president demand a loyalty oath from Mr. Comey? Did he tell Mr. Comey, look, if you don't get off this investigation, you're going to be fired? I mean, there are a number of very specific questions that go, again, to our duties. And a time when we have a president who, for the first time in 40 years, refuses to disclose his taxes, that's the lowest ethical bar, it's important in a matter like this to follow the money.
Okay, Senator Ron Wyden, you'll be hosting some town halls. You were telling us the number one question, health care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, number one question is health care, and this is going to be a particularly big week because Senator McConnell is trying to see if he can get the Republican caucus to come together around a plan. It's still going to be very flawed because what they're trying to do is cut Medicaid $800 billion and then give big tax breaks to the very fortunate.
Okay, Senator Ron Wyden, always a pleasure to see
Thanks
you
for
in
having
person.
me.
We see you on TV all the time. It's great to see you in
To be
person.
continued.
And
Thank
if
you
you want,
for
why don't you
being
hang
here.
around? You can do the weather.
I like it. Good. All right. Good to see you.
Thanks
Thank
again
you
for
both.
being here.
Take care.
And stay